Dear friends, that I am here in itself is a pleasure for me. Because we in Iran, right from the time of Abdul Baha, always the attention of the believers in Iran who were persecuted, who were deprived, were drawn towards this land. I remember, I'm talking about 1929-30, when I was a child. Always we had a photograph of the model, of Louis Bourgeois, the first concept, which had much bigger than this, and there was a bridge. You have all seen it. I still remember that it was a blue background with the golden lines. And this was always in the mantelpiece of our drawing room. I remember how much the Baha'is of Iran were looking forward to receive these copies of the Star of the West. I remember that how much every week we used to go to the Baha'i classes. We used to get some coins to give a contribution for the building of this building, right when we were 5, 6 years old. So therefore, these two countries, the cradle of the faith and the cradle of the world order of Baha'u'llah, are very much connected together. I imagined that the coming of a number of Persian friends to United States, these two forces have merged together, and I'm sure if they work together, they will achieve great achievements. Provided, like a tapestry, Persians and American believers of like Warf of Woof, to create that beautiful vision which Baha'u'llah had wanted for us, not as patches stick on this beautiful tapestry. This is very, very important. I am honored to be before an audience who have the champion builders of the world order of Baha'u'llah. Beloved Guardian has said American believers are the spiritual descendants of the pioneers of the heroic age, with as great achievement as they had done. So we are together, and we work together, and we go forward together. I am honored to be in presence of an audience about which Abdul Baha, the Center of Covenant, has said, America is, in the eyes of one true God, the land wherein the splendors of his light shall be revealed, where the mysteries of his faith shall be unveiled, where the righteous will abide and free assemble. You know better than I do that what a great mission your country has in the affairs of the world, in the unification of mankind. Your country is groomed by the hand of providence to fulfill a great mission. I'll go back a few centuries ago, where beloved Guardian said, the fire of civil war welded these nations, these states, to become one nation. And right from there, a pattern for future society of mankind is established, where it is proven that the interest of the part is served by the interest of the whole. We have seen that how this great nation became a great nation because of this unification of various states. A couple of centuries past, this nation had become prosperous. They got so much prosperity that not a single state by themselves could hope to achieve. When the prosperity had dawned in this country, so appeared the time of isolation. You were a self-contained country, oblivious of what's going on outside the world. But this was not what the hand of Providence designed for you. Then gradually, you have been compelled by the force of history to come in the world theater and be leader in that whole theater. And your leadership is growing day by day of the country. But nobody in this country is aware of what Baha'u'llah has ordained for this country in Kitab al-Aqdas. When he addressed the rulers and presidents of America to bind ye the broken with the hands of justice and crush the oppressor with the rod of the commandments of your Lord. This creative word of Baha'u'llah has compelled America to come to be in the current of the will of God, designed for them. I do not want to go to the history, but I wanted to let us think of this, of the recent events. You know, the collective security, for instance, which theoretically was vested in the Security Council of the United Nations, had appeared in the world for the first time through the leadership of your President Bush in the Gulf War. And this is combined with the other thing which Baha'u'llah has said, crush the oppressor. And this collective security has established a norm in the foreign policy of all countries, that no one can attack other country without being punished. And this is what Baha'u'llah has told in Kitab al-Aqdas about the United States. And this is what you are going. You go, still you can see that human rights, for instance, for the first time in the history of mankind, The abuse of human rights has become an excuse, not excuse, but a reason to wage war against the oppressor. This is what has been done in Kosovo. You see what, dear friend, you are talking about the establishment of universal peace. Why we not open our eyes to see that every day the elements of this lesser peace which we are thinking is coming into being? Now, people may say that America has done all these things for the self-interest, political and economic interest. It may be so, but this is not the issue. Whatever the motive, whatever the reason, as we say, nobody can frustrate the will of God. America is in that current. America is going to have this leadership. You have got now as an element of your foreign policy in this country, the freedom of religion. These are not a very small achievement. But the problem is that the people do not know why they are doing this. We know. Now, the beloved Guardian has said many times about the missions that you have to perform. You are familiar with all these things. You have no time to go into it. But I wanted to tell you that Abdul Baha said that the banner of international peace may be upraised here in America. And when he was in San Francisco, has said, when he said here, I do not know whether he meant San Francisco or America. But you should remember that the first time, the first session of the United Nations was in San Francisco, in that way. Now, these are stories and become history. And this, I will take this beautiful story very short. I don't go more than that. But I want now, dear boys in America, you are a part of it. With this great country, with that lofty mission which God has provided for it, you as Baha'i community have a great mission of your own. That is very important. See what beloved Master has said. He said, O ye apostle of Baha'u'llah, may my life be sacrificed for you. Behold the portals which Baha'u'llah hath opened before you. Consider how exalted and lofty is the station you are destined to attain. How unique the favor with which you have been endowed. The full measure of your success is as yet unrevealed. Its significance is still unapprehended. Ere long you will, with your own eyes, witness how brilliantly every one of you, even as a shining star, will radiate in the firmament of your country the light of divine guidance, and will bestow upon its people the glory of an everlasting life. Consider how exalted and lofty your station is, and how great is your mission. You are the recipient of the tablet of divine plan. You are charged with the spiritual conquest of the planet. Every day, any time that I, as a person, or with the members of the Universal House of Justice, we have the bounty to go in the shrine of Baha'u'llah. When I put my foot on the threshold of the entrance door, I am conscious that under that slab of stone lies the roll of honor of the Knights of Baha'u'llah who had conquered many countries of the world. And all of us are grateful to you, because most of them are American. This is not a very small bounty that you are given by Baha'u'llah. Now, see what Abdul Baha says about you. May they, American Baha'i community, rise from the present material attainments to such height that heavenly illumination may stream from this center to all peoples of the world. Then he said that Americans will lead all nations spiritually. I want to emphasize of this word spiritually. At present, materially, your country is leading. But your job as American believer is to lead the world spiritually. With all these proud promises, with all these lofty station conferred upon you, there is one question to remain to be answered. And in fact, that question is asked by beloved guardian when he says, would it seem extravagant to accept that in the midst of so enviable a region of the earth, and out of the agony and wreckages of an unprecedented crisis, there should burst forth a spiritual renaissance, which, as it propagates itself through the instrumentality of the American believers, will rehabilitate the fortune of a decadent age. American believers, instruments of a spiritual renaissance. Are you prepared for it? Certainly you try and tried, but have you tried enough? In the midst of a society, a comfort-loving society, individualistic society, obsessed with material pursuit, with sex, with unfair business practices, corrupt political system, you American Baha'is have to meet a special challenge. A challenge which requires a superhuman effort to meet. Beloved guardian has warned you. If I was living, I wish I was in this country, I could he warn us. But We have got our own warning, don't worry about it. He said, the American Baha'i community, listen to it, the American Baha'i community, the leaven destined to leaven the whole, cannot hope at this critical juncture in the fortunes of a struggling, spiritually moribund nation to either escape the trials with which this nation is confronted, nor claim to be wholly immune from the evils that stains its character. It cannot be immune. And we have to be a new creation. The degree of immunity depends on how spiritually we strengthen ourselves. We have to lead, remember Abdul Baha said, you have to lead spiritually the world. But he says that, be careful, you are not immune. The degree of immunity is how we shield ourselves with the powers, with that particular power which is inherent in the faith itself. Our job is to invoke that power, which no power on earth can frustrate. The power I refer to you is the power of the faith. The same power which sustained the faith right from the time of the Bab. A 25-year-old young man who claimed some impossible claim in a country about which now you know better the degree of bigotry and prejudices, cruelty. In that particular time, a 25 years old claimed that claim that when everybody think about it with shiver. When in that small house of the Bab in 1844, 23rd May 1844, when Mullah Hussein came out of that house bewildered, he was one man facing the whole world. How could it establish itself? Except there is a supernatural power within it. I do not want to go into history, we do not have time, but think about Siyah Chal, think about the incarceration of Baha'u'llah, think about the rebellion of Mirza Yahya, the half-brother of Baha'u'llah, think of Abdul Baha and his brother, think of the Ottoman Empire who was being instigated to kill Abdul Baha. Think of beloved guardian and his family. How we can sustain ourselves, our faith, in the face of so formidable trials. That is the power that we have to invoke if we want to spiritually be immune. I can say the same power who is propelling the Universal House of Justice. We are really amazed that how these 9 feeble, ordinary people could achieve what has achieved the Baha'i world. Why they have achieved? Because these 9 feeble, ordinary people do not consider that they have done anything, because it's not their power. I often wonder, sitting around the table in the chamber, look at myself, and I'm sure looking at my colleagues, which are feeling the same. There are thousands of people in the world. There are hundreds among our Baha'i community. They are much more advanced in science. They are more advanced in of different character. They have done a great deal of sacrifices. Sometimes when I think about the sacrifices with some of these Persian friends which are still here, I am ashamed of myself. But our power, our confidence, our reliance is in that power, because Baha'u'llah has told that he is going to protect and guide them. That's why Baha'u'llah, referring to that power, when he says, should they attempt to conceal its light on the continent, it will assuredly rear its head in the midst heart of the ocean, and raising its voice proclaim, I am the life giver of the world. That is why we have to invoke that power if you want to achieve anything. It is very much when you have got something to do, you make a task force, we have got experts, we have got planning and so on, all good. But if all these things are not based on invocation of that wonderful power, it is only a 5-year plan, 6-year plan, which the governments also have. I always, Abdul Baha has said that don't look at our weakness. We are weak. In the prayers we say we are weak and thou art the Almighty. We are ignorance, you are all-knowing. Now, I always have this analogy, which I liked it, but I hope you will like it too. Even if you don't, pretend for my sake. You see all this illumination which you have in this wonderful building? All these lights are coming to a fuse board. What is this fuse board? Consists of worthless wire of this size. You take this wire out, it's worthless. Nobody can buy it. But the same little wire, when it's connected to the powerhouse, causes this illumination. We are all those worthless power. That's why when we call the spiritual, the faith of Baha'u'llah, the spirit is all about, not the teaching, not the principles. The principles, teaching, is a manifestation of that power. Because the reality of man is his soul, and the faith is something of soul, belonging to soul, relating to soul. And that's what is our power we have. Now, how can we connect ourselves to that power? If you ask me the answer, based on my own experience and the experience which I have heard from others, is only one thing. Not only one thing, but the main thing is one. That is to immerse ourselves to the words of God. Many Baha'is are Baha'is because they have read the books written about the Baha'i faith by wonderful Baha'i writers. but it's not bad. It's good for the writers too. But this is not enough. In the beginning of one of the tablets of Baha'u'llah, he says, it's unfortunately not translated, he says, in the name of the one who breathes life in the body of the words. بسم الذي هو منفخ الروح في أجساد الكلمات. What does it mean? It means that only the words of God can change our hearts. The words of God is the only way to set an assurance in our heart, taking us through from this finite, unreal world to the height of immortality, bliss, and happiness. The love of Baha'u'llah is the main thing that we have in our faith. Teachings and principles are important if they are based on the love of Baha'u'llah. There are so many golden rules in everywhere you can find. Abdul Baha says the same thing we say about the peace. If others say it will not influence anyone. Why? Because of that power. This was the power who had propelled our martyrs to give their lives, their home. This is the same power which propelled your beautiful, wonderful souls who went pioneering to the God-forsaken places. One of your American pioneer, Knight of Baha'u'llah, Ben Gorky, which you know, had stayed for 2 years in a hole under the North Pole. How could it do it without having, voluntarily, without having this power within him? Martha Ruth did the same. These are the things that is important. I would like to read for you few passages from Kitab al-Aqdas, the most holy book. He said, O ye peoples of the world, know assuredly that my commandments are the lamps of my loving providence among my servants, and the keys of my mercy for my creatures. Thus hath it been sent down from the heaven of the will of your Lord. Were any man to taste the sweetness of the words which the lips of the All-Merciful have willed to utter, he would, though the treasures of the earth be in his possession, renounce them one and all, that he might vindicate the truth of even one of his commandments, shining about the dayspring of his bountiful care and loving kindness. To taste the sweetness of the words. This is the way that the people can renounce the whole world for the sake of the cause. Tasting the sweetness of his word is what makes us to rise and serve the cause in accordance with what the center of the cause has asked us to do. He says further that from my laws the sweet-smelling savor of my garment can be smelled, and by their aid the standards of victory will be planted upon the highest peak. Then he says, observe my commandments for the love of my beauty. Happy is the lover that hath inhaled the divine fragrance of his best beloved from these words. The House of Justice has provided for the Baha'i world this concept of training institute. It is only for this, that help the people. Training institute is not the deepening classes, is not the summer school. It's not a place to give information. It is a place to spiritualize us, to make it sure of the immortality of our souls, to let us have in our heart the hidden words, and so forth. Now, observe my commandments for the love of my beauty. Friends, this is a very great verse of Baha'u'llah to my mind, because it gives us this philosophy, that the philosophy of the obedient of the laws of Baha'u'llah is not the fear of a hell or a hope for a, what do you call it, paradise. The philosophy of obedience is love. How can we mentally accept Baha'i faith because it has got lofty principles without having this love in our heart? But he has told us how we can increase his love in our hearts. He says, recite ye the verses of God every morn and eventide. Whoso faileth to recite them, hath not been faithful to the covenant of God and his testament. And whoso turneth away from the holy verses in this day is of those who throughout eternity have turned away from God. It is a great injunction. It is in Kitab Aqdas. Do we realize what important it is? I don't want to go into it because I'm afraid I may misunderstood. But he said, pride not yourselves on much reading of the verses or on a multitude of pious acts by nights and day, for were a man to read a single verse with joy and radiance, it would be better for him than to read with lassitude all the holy books of God, the help in peril, the self-subsisting. Read ye the sacred verses in such measure that ye be not overcome by languor and despondency. Lay not upon your souls that which will weary them and weigh them down, but rather what will lighten and uplift them, so that they may soar on the wings of the divine verses towards the dawning place of his manifest sign. If somebody asks me what is the most important thing that Baha'is should observe, I say this one. Why? Because twice a day, even one verse, he said, one verse, with the spirit of contemplation, will let us know the purpose of our creation, the purpose of our life, and also the wish and will of God. It creates the love of Baha'u'llah into us, because these are the same words which we are talking about, in which this power, mysterious power, is there able to change all of us. You know, in other religions, the reading the Holy Script was a virtue. It is not virtue here. You know that the Buddhists in Tibet, they pay to a monk and prays in the will prayer and turn it so that this prayer will be scattered on his behalf. We have in Iran the people who are giving money to a mullah to read Quran on their behalf. Baha'u'llah says, no, one verse, but twice a day, every day. This is it. It is very important, dear friend, because the thing which I am emphasizing is Abdul Baha's spirituality that requires for you to lead spiritually the nations of the world. If you ask me, why did the West, and Europe even is worse than here, why the faith of Baha'u'llah is not going so fast? Whereas when you talk to the people, they cannot deny that these are the teachings that we need. Why? Because our approach is only intellectual. That time has come for us to deal with the spiritual side of our faith. And you will see the difference. In the dawn prayers, Baha'u'llah refers that the evil whisperer who is whispering in our breast, this whisperer is with us. We breathe and he whispers all the time. If you don't breathe, maybe it is better. Now, Baha'u'llah, through his mercy, through his bounty, had given us the law of obligatory prayers. Obligatory prayers was different with the Baha'i prayer book, which we are having every time we can have it. That is quite different. Because of the circumstances, majority of the Baha'is have decided the short obligatory prayer. If Baha'u'llah accepts that, who am I to say it's better to go to the other two? But even this short obligatory prayer, remember, is obligatory. You cannot have excuses for ourselves not to do it. And what this short obligatory prayer said? First of all, he tells us of the purpose of our life, the cause of creation. He said, "Thou hast created me to know thee and worship thee. To know thee and worship thee. Knowledge, in the Kitab al-Aqdas, the beginning of Kitab al-Aqdas said, the first duty of man is the recognition of the dawning place of revelation, means Baha'u'llah. But he said it will not be accepted except it goes with the deeds, with following his commandments. He said, our guardian said there are twin duty, one twin duty. Now, in the same 2-3 lines of obligatory prayer, he says something which helps us to get rid of that evil whisperer within our breast, that ego. We always, with great humility, tell, I testify to my powerlessness and to thy might, to my poverty and to my wealth. Who is reading this? A professor in university who sometimes he thinks he's somebody. A millionaire, a businessman who can do everything he thinks from his wealth. If he doesn't say this every day, he will forget that he is nobody, that our worth, like this little wire of fuse, depends on our connection with that power, not in isolation. Now, if sometimes we can have time, I wish we can increase that sometimes, to have the long obligatory prayer. We can see that long obligatory prayer is the essence of the prayers in all dispensations. Let us have a habit to have more these long obligatory prayers. This long obligatory prayers gives us a total submission to God. And this total submission releases from every burden on this world. Haven't you forgotten that Baha'u'llah says that the true liberty is following my commandment? And the doubters in the world, the philosophers of the world, they say, what sort of liberty is this if you have to follow somebody? This is the total submission. He says, whatsoever is revealed by thee is the desire of my heart and the beloved of my soul. O God, my God, look not upon my hope and my doings, nay, rather look upon thy will that had encompassed heaven and earth. By thy most great name, O thou Lord of all nations, I have desired only what thou didst desire, and love only what thou dost love. Isn't it so beautiful? It is difficult to attain this. But isn't it one step forward if every day, or sometimes during a month, we remind ourselves about this? You can see that the difficulties we face in this country and any other country comes from the pride which sets in our life. We having a PhD, becoming a professor, And then we know better. The institutions should take counsel from us. Because who are these members of the ordinary people? We are somebody. But when we read this prayer, you see what he says? He said, O God, my God, thy forgiveness hath emboldened me, and thy mercy hath strengthened me, and thy call hath awakened me, and thy grace hath raised me up and led me unto thee. Who otherwise am I? Who otherwise am I, that I should dare to stand at the gate of the city of their nearness, or set my face towards the light that's shining from the heaven at thy will? Who otherwise are we before the power of God? That is why, by reading these kind of words, day by day, we will control our pride. We will suppress or suppress our ego. I shiver when, even the course of ordinary conversation, I hear, I like it. You show a picture, say, I like it. Well, this I has not only a dot on top, there is a heavy line under it. I like it is different, we say I like it. If you say I like it, all right, somebody else said I like it, I like something else, but there is a room for negotiation. You like that, I like this. But we say, I like it, well, all right. There's no way to communicate because of that ego. I am more important than anyone else. And that's why the families are being disrupted, because husband and wife both said, I like it. Now, the other things in the same obligatory prayer, at the end, towards the end, he said, protect us, O my Lord, from the host of idle fancies and vain imaginings. Friends, through the last breath of our lives, we will have doubts. We are tested by so many things. We read something in the writing we do not understand. If we have got ego, we say we understand better, and this doesn't work. But read every day. Ask God that help you to be immune from this kind of doubt. Sorry, I'm talking to you. This is what you say, what they say. Okay. But friends, I wanted to tell you one thing else. When we are talking of spiritualization, when we're talking about how this whole world as it is in vain if it is not considered as a stage towards our eternal life, many people think that we have to leave everything and go to the jungle and pray. The people think that the detachment is very much connected with the deprivation of the worldly gifts. This is not the case. God bless every one of you who is a millionaire. Because Baha'u'llah says that every human being, after reaching maturity, wealth is necessary for it. The wealth is necessary. Baha'u'llah says in the Ishraqat. If you read it, you will find out. بعد از بلوغ ثروت لازم می‌فهمم. Why I'm talking Persian? Now, look what Baha'u'llah says in the hidden words. O son of dust, all that is in heaven and earth I have ordained for thee, except the human heart, which I have made the habitation of my beauty and glory. Yet thou didst give my home and dwelling to another than me, and whenever the manifestation of my holiness sought his own abode, a stranger found he there, and homeless hastened unto the sanctuary of the beloved. Notwithstanding, I have concealed thy secret and desired not thy shame. See, everything in earth and in heaven is for our enjoyment. We are a happy religion. And we should enjoy life. Everything, except at least 81% of it. 19% belongs to God again. Have everything, enjoy everything, but give your heart to Baha'u'llah. This is the problem that some of us will forget. Because sometimes we will be so much immersed in our business, so much immersed in our career and our profession, day and night going on, that there is no time for Baha'u'llah. There is no room for serving his cause. There is no room for teaching it. This is what we have to be aware of. When we say that when you go to Abdul Baha's shrine, and you read, recite tablet of visitation, help me to be selfless at the entrance of thy gate. Selfless. Lord, give me to drink from the chalice of selflessness. With its robe clothe me, and its ocean immerse me. The selflessness is different with renunciation of the world. When you are selfless, we should not have a vacuum. Our self has gone, and what it is there? That's why Baha'u'llah sets in. The love of Baha'u'llah sets in. And that is creating everything we want in this world and the world to come. We are having sometimes problem when Baha'u'llah says, fear God. Particularly the people from Christianity, which are hearing all the time about love, love, love. Of course, that's only hearing say. Fine. I will tell you some story which I just remember. Once we were going to Bahji in our car with Amatul Bahar Ruhiya Khanum. And we passed through one of these main streets of Haifa. There was a big poster of this pornography type of poster, which was very rare in those days in Haifa. Ruhiya Khanum was shocked. And she said that I want to say that every Baha'i one goes to this cinema to see this picture. You should think when he goes out, Abdul Baha standing on the door. It's beautiful. This is a typical of Ruya Khanum. He said, can that Baha'i look at his eyes? That is what it means, the fear of God. And that is why it saves us, my dear friend. If you are spiritualized in the way that Baha'u'llah wants, through going to immersing ourselves in the ocean of his words, all of these things, whether it has got their marital life, or relationship with children, with our neighbors, with races, everything goes through Baha'u'llah. I remember that once I was in, I think, Rome, sitting in a sideway cafe, sipping my coffee and looking at the people going here and there. And really, Italians are very nice to look at. They are very well dressed and so on. I was thinking myself, having my cup of coffee in my hand, these people are going here and there. Why I should love them? It has nothing to do with me. They're going into their own way, I'm going my own way. Why I have to love them? I had no answer except to say, I love them because Baha'u'llah has said me to love them. Others individually have nothing to do. Why I should love them actually? That's why, if our relationship with our fellow men, with our beloved people, with husband, wife, children, is always, or business partners, or whatever, goes through Baha'u'llah all the time. Coming out of this cinema full of corruption in this world, seeing Baha'u'llah is at the door. That will solve all our problem, isn't it? No, I do not go further. But before ending, I will have one appeal to the Baha'is in America. That is, please give the faith of Baha'u'llah to your children. Friends, it is very, very important. We are very happy recently in past 2-3 years. We are really happy to see that a group of Baha'is of the East, there come the whole family. Husband, wife, 3, 4, 5 children sometimes, all coming together. It would never happen before. That's why I think it's really a blessing for us. Friends, we in Iran had learned so many things from you. Please, you at least learn one thing from us. That is, in Iran, we could not teach. We were persecuted. The people were not responsive. The enemies of the faith had said so many bad things about the faith that nobody wanted to hear or utter the word of Baha'i. But how we grew to this formidable community. I don't say frightening community. How we grew that way? Because we grew through our children. Till 10, 15 years ago, it was a scarcity we could come across. The second generation or third generation Baha'is in America. And that's why we didn't grow. A wave of Baha'i comes, a wave go. Naturally, both naturally. But if we have lost 3 generations in this country, it's enough. For heaven's sake, it's enough. If you have got a member of any local spiritual assembly, think how you can help your community to give the faith to their children. If you are a national spiritual assembly, put this in the really one of the high places in the agenda. If you do that in 10 years, you will see what would happen. How many more confirmed Baha'i you have. Now, I would like to finish with this quotation of Abdul Baha. And I'm very sorry that probably I have they didn't fortunately give me how much time I have. So I'm not guilty conscious. It's addressed to you. The Almighty will no doubt grant you the help of His grace, will invest you with the token of His might, and will endure your soul with the sustaining power of His Holy Spirit. Be not concerned. Be not concerned with the smallness of your number, neither be oppressed by the multitude of an unbelieving world. Exert yourselves. Your mission is unspeakably glorious. Don't look at your fewness or the greatness of the unbelievers. Invoke that power. Immerse yourself to that power. And as a little fused warrior, illumine your country. Thank you very much.